everybody, this is another episode of the Curvy Kitten. As you can see today, we are actually going to be doing a unboxing. I recently bought some new brushes from a company by the name of Caribou. So let's have a little look. I haven't had a real close look at these as of yet. Okay, so first thing you notice is that you get quite a nice leather or faux leather case. I'll have to double check to see whether or not they're actually leather. So you open up the roll, which again is very nice. It's fairly standard, but it is nice. I believe from the feel of it, just having a little look at the ends, that this is indeed faux leather rather than actual leather. But that's fine, so we're just going to fold that back. Get that realigned nicely. So the first brush we have will work sort of from this direction. Is a spoolie brush. And they do have Caribou's name printed quite nicely on the side. There is, however, no indicator for what brush. There's no brush numbers. But it's sort of your standard spoolie brush. It's actually quite soft. It's got a certain firmness to it that's nice. So in order to get everything sort of brushed through nicely. The handles feel quite solid, and I really like this little crimp. If I can get it to focus. Come on, camera, focus. There we go. You can do it. This little crimp between sort of the neck and the handle, because that actually feels quite solid, whereas a lot of times you feel like the brush handles aren't necessarily going to last very long. That actually feels a little bit more solid than most of the brushes I have, especially right there. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Come on, focus, focus. There we go. It's actually quite a deep crimp, so that's really quite nice. So I'll put that one back. The next brush we have in this set is a little sort of nubbed brush. Can't even say it's really a brush, but a nub, in order to sort of blend or smoke out eyeliner. So that's quite firm. I recently bought a 4-pound set of brushes that also came with one of these, but it was a bit sort of squirrely and overly soft. So that's nice and firm. I'll put that one back. And then we have, it looks like a liner brush, and it does come with a nice little plastic doodah to keep it safe. So let's get that to focus. The brushes are quite stiff at the moment, but they do have sort of a nice feel, and the handles feel quite nice. And again, I like that they've got the name printed sort of nicely on them, but I would prefer if they had numbers so that you could indicate exactly which brush you're using or need to use for a particular look. Next brush we've got is this little guy here. Again, the bristles feel quite firm. One of the things that is noted on the Caribou site was sort of a story about someone's day being ruined and a job being ruined by her brush shedding all over her. So she came up with Caribou. I don't know whether or not these are synthetic or not. They feel like they might be. One thing I did notice when I opened the packaging is quite a strong smell of like solvent and glue, which you often actually get with lower quality brushes. There's no indication that is the case with these thus far. I've not had a chance to try them, so I'll do another video once I've given them a shot. But there's that little brush. The next brush we have is an angled brush. And this one is quite soft. It's not very firm, so I think I would struggle with using it for eyeliner unless you trust yourself to be quite sweepy. It might be quite good for brows. But again, the fibers are quite soft, but to me they just feel, I mean, there's a little bit of push, so it could be okay. And then the next brush we have is another little brush. Again, quite soft. This one's a bit firm, so let's compare that one to this one. So we've got these two brushes, so you can see the bristle length is quite a bit longer on this one than the first one I showed you guys. And this one's much, much, much firmer, so that one's got a little bit more give. And then we have sort of a fluffy blending brush. And again, it's quite soft, but it's got sort of a nice sort of point to it. I'm just going to raise my lamp a little bit, see if we can get some better light on the actual bristles. There we go, that's a little bit better. So I'm just going to see if I can get the camera to focus in on the bristles. It is, again, quite soft. They are quite nice. Handle's a bit thicker. Does feel like it has nice control. And with that little ridge, if you're being very careful and holding on, gives some sort of good hold there. We have a little fluffy shader, or a, I won't even call that a shader. It's a lid brush or possibly a concealer brush. It's got quite a short handle in comparison. Oops, dropping my brush, hold on. Do not drop the product. So it's got quite a sort of firm head to it, which I quite like. So again, it could be an eyeshadow or a concealer brush. I would probably personally use it for concealer, just because it's hard to find a good brush that has sort of a nice sort of texture and head. So let's see if that'll focus in. So yeah, there you go. Again, very nice glossy sort of top to it, and the little logo of the leaves. Okay, the next brush we've got has a nice little brush shape holder to keep sort of the bristles nice. And that would be a foundation brush. So that feels quite nice as well, but feels a little bit soft to me. And some people might like that in a foundation brush. I tend to have sort of a preference for firmer brushes, because I feel like I get more control out of them. Let me just quickly grab you one of my other concealer brushes, or not concealer brushes, foundation brushes, and we can compare them. So this is my Sephora foundation brush, and it is noted on the other side that it is a foundation brush, so we can sort of compare them. So my Sephora brush is obviously much smaller, and has a much sort of smaller head for more control. A lot of the foundation brushes I find have quite large heads, sort of in comparison. So we've got that versus that. So that has a nice, very clean, rounded edge. And this one's a little bit fluffier and a little bit more pointed, and quite a bit softer, in my opinion. And I don't mean sort of texture-wise, because the bristles on this are incredibly soft. They're very nice. But they're just a bit more giving, this brush. So I will give that a try with some foundation shortly, and we'll see how that comes out. So we'll put that one back in, and I will set down my other brush. Okay, the next brush we have is an angled shading brush, or sort of, you could use it for a lot of things, blush, contouring. This brush, however, is very, very soft. And by soft, I mean it is you know, the texture is lovely, but it has no sort of, it has a lot of give. So I'll just use on the back of my hand. You can see it fans out, so it doesn't quite maintain sort of that firm crease. I mean, if you're very light with it, it does, but in this instance, it seems to fan out quite a bit. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm going to have to give it a try. But I feel like this brush would be too fluffy for me unless I'm doing just something very light and dusty. I might use it more for blush than for contouring. The next brush we have is another sort of fluffy brush. I would say this is definitely meant to be like a blush brush, or sort of a very tight in, not exactly a powder brush, but a brush you could use sort of very tight into things like under eye areas or along noses, if you're just dusting a little bit of powder or doing your blush. This would probably work very nicely as a blush brush. Again, it's very soft. There's not a whole lot of hold to it. So again, on the back of the hand, you get quite this big fan, which is fine. But if you're going for a very narrow area, if you're putting any sort of pressure on it, it will fan out quite a bit. But that's not necessarily a disadvantage. It's just the style of brush. And I would definitely say that at least these brushes here at the end, I imagine they have to be synthetic because the shine on them is very plasticky. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just sort of indicates to me that they're probably not natural bristles, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And then the last brush we have is sort of a big fluffy powder brush. And this one, again, is very, 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 very soft, and sort of goes out everywhere. So I wouldn't use it again for anything that requires any sort of control. I actually probably like this brush the least just from the feel of it, because I would feel like it you know, went out everywhere. Again, I'll show you my Sephora brush to compare. So this is my well-loved Sephora powder brush, and I'll see if you can see, they've got sort of similar heads. This one's a bit bigger. Let's see if I can get that to focus in. So that's a little bit bigger. But this, I feel like it's got some pushback and will really, you know, go where you want it to. You can tell that I have been blushing with this brush. So I need to give it a wash, but I feel like it's got a nice sort of feeling of control. The handles are of a similar size, but there's just something about my Sephora brush I really like. And this is not the highest end brush that they offer, but it has a real nice feeling to it. Put that up there. So yeah, this one splays out a lot, and you can see that the fibers are quite wavy. You can see they've got a bit of a crimp. And again, not necessarily a bad thing, but I just think it'd be too soft for me. It might be a good brush for dusting off powder or doing a very light powdering. But certainly it isn't one that I'd use for buffing, because it feels like it just sort of goes everywhere. So those are the brushes I received. I will need to give them sort of a up and going try when I have a chance. So I will do a video on that shortly, but I just want to do a quick first look and a quick very first impression. I will come back and give you guys an idea of how these actually perform. What I'll do is I'll make a point of my next video that I do where I'm putting on my own makeup. I will use these brushes exclusively and see how I feel about them. So I will try and do that in the next day or so while I quickly put my little sleeves back on, and we will see how that sort of progresses. But I will leave this for now and pull up the website so that you can get a little look at that. Once I've got that, then we can sort of go forward from there But let me know what you think down below. And let me know whether or not you've bought these, whether or not you think that they're worth the £29 that you will have paid for them. Or do you think they're actually worth the £200+ they are being sold for? Just wanted to show you guys the website that is set up for Caribou, and let me just say that this website's absolutely beautiful. As you can see, they offer free worldwide delivery, and I will say that my brushes came extremely quickly. So I'm just going to have a little tour around for you guys. So the brush collections is the first place I would suggest having a little look. Now, again, Caribou is a beautiful website. You can see the photography is very nice. They've done a really good job at making this look very professional, which I think is actually quite impressive given that the CEO / founder, Katie, is only 23 according to the bio. This is the brush collection that I picked up. It is the longest lasting brush collection. Currently on sale for £29, generally £229. So that's a £200 savings. They are listed as being the long-lasting makeup brushes with a guarantee of 3 years. Katie generally says that she feels her normal brushes only last her 3 to 6 months, which, to be honest, is one of the reasons why I very frequently buy inexpensive brushes, because if they fall apart, that doesn't matter. However, I am finding that if you have one or two really good brushes, they can actually last for years. So hopefully these will be brushes I will be cherishing for a very long time. In having a little look around, I'll take you to the all products page. I've actually discovered that the powder brush and blusher brush, which I was correct in guessing, are both dual fibers, so they are natural and synthetic fibers. All of the brushes have bamboo handles. So we did in fact have a foundation brush, a concealer brush, an all over eye brush, which is also listed as being dual fiber, an angled brow brush, which I was correct on, because I did think it was a little soft to do eyeliner with. We have the blending brush, the bullet tip eye smudger, the precision contour brush, lash brush, which I personally would use for spooling my eyebrows, a lip brush, the eyeliner brush, and the elegant roll-up pouch all come in that £29 set. These are in fact actually leather, and are embossed with the name on them. They're actually really beautiful, let me tell you. My camera didn't really do it any justice, whereas obviously their photography does. So it is a lovely matte black bag. But as you can see in their photograph, they've used quite sort of shimmery light, which gives it sort of a golden glow. So as I was telling you, the story of Katie was that she actually had an important job interview, and her makeup brushes fell apart on her. She believes that resulted in her not getting the job because she looked the right mess, and went on then to start Caribou after doing some research on brushes. And given that she's only 23, I think this is incredibly impressive. And she does send as much of the money as possible to actually help reforest the rainforest and to help the people living on the land and the animals and everyone get along. So that is absolutely lovely. I will admit that I got a blogger discount on the £29 for the brushes. However, this sort of review and introduction is entirely my honest first impression. And I haven't been sponsored to say any of this. To be honest, I kind of want to steal her web designer because this is absolutely gorgeous. But I would strongly suggest that you follow Katie on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, and possibly get a hold of her just to say hello, because she's actually really nice from what I can tell. And pick up those brushes if you are in need of them, sort of while they're still cheap, because I can't say that I would be willing to spend 229 brushes on £229 on any brushes, even if they were made out of solid gold and, you know, the spun hair of the Fairy Queen. I'm cheap, but these seem quite nice, so later on this week I will do a full makeup tutorial using my Caribou brushes and give you a real opinion, especially about the whole shedding thing, because that's sort of Katie's thing, that the brushes don't shed and they will last for 3 years. So I do think that's really amazing. So yeah, definitely come have a little look at the website. I'll put the link below, but it is actually pretty simple. It's just www.cariboocosmetics.co.uk. But certainly drop by and have a look, and I will speak to you guys next week when I have a minute to give these brushes a try. So have a good evening. Bye bye.